Okay, so that's your beautiful body, looking at the smallest thing in your body. Except for the bacteria, fungi, and viruses in your gut, which is your microbiome. The rest of it is cells that carry your own DNA. Only the microbiome in your stomach is given to you by your mother. And that one, some people call it a bag of bacteria, but actually that in science is also considered an organ because it produces all the enzymes and all that for you to digest food and everything. So your whole body works in a dance of life. So it does a lot of things, right? So this is very complicated, right? Endoplasmic ribosomes and all that. But essentially, it's just like a factory. Okay, it needs to take in raw materials. Then it has got this little production line called organelles that will produce what it needs to produce. For example, the beta cells on your pancreas will produce insulin. Okay, the stomach will be lined by cells that will secrete the enzymes and the acid necessary to digest your food. The bone cells will come out, become hard, and actually forms your bone. Then what happens is, of course, they have to send out the things that's necessary, right? Even if I want to move a finger, a lot of cells are working. They give me the energy to move my finger. So, of course, it needs energy. The energy comes from this thing called the mitochondria. Then, of course, there's waste that must be gotten rid of. So those are what we call toxins. But, of course, your cells need to be maintained and repaired, right? Have you ever heard of a factory that don't need to repair one? How many of you ever thought of having to maintain and repair yourselves? You all think your teeth is just teeth, right? You all think stomach is stomach. The doctors will tell you that when they give you a drug, it goes through a pathway that targets certain cells that helps you with your disease. Okay? So what is aging? Aging is basically your cells getting older. Cellular aging. Cellular aging is when the cells in our body over a period of time, our cells start to split. Then you become a baby. Then the baby grows. The cells learn more and more new things, become stronger and stronger. After a while, the cells start to get weak when they break, when they split or they regenerate from 100% cut back a bit, become 99.8%, 99.5%. So this is cellular aging. But what is a progressive decline, which means slowly, due to accumulation of bad cells. A few cells will get bad, then the bad cells will accumulate because of damages. The damage could be actual injury. It could be a lot of other factors. It could be you suffered certain radiation, or you breathe something that's bad, and you suffered heavy doses of pollution. And then you have exposure to what I call exogenous. Exogenous means things that's not controlled by you. But there are things that you can control, things that you can't. But then, of course, there are some things that is genetically, especially the genetic abnormalities. I will not talk about that tonight, but genetic abnormalities, do you all notice that it's happening very commonly these days? How many of you have friends who give birth to babies at a young age having eczema? I'm sure you have a lot, right? And how many of you have heard of young friends who first pregnancy has a miscarriage? All these things are a collection and is transmitted from generation to generation. So if you don't take care of yourself, okay, how many of you are of childbearing age? Those who are very not of childbearing age, I guess you can't do much, but now take care of that child, okay? But those of you who are of childbearing age, please do take care of yourself, because otherwise you're going to pass all that bad stuff to the next generation, and that's the genetic abnormalities that could happen. Okay? Now, when I get old, I want to maintain all my functionality. I want to maintain my dignity to be able to go to the toilet myself. How many of you ever thought of that? How many have you ever thought of, like, when I'm old, I want to be able to walk to the toilet, do my business, and come out myself? Or prefer to have someone come bring a pan after clean you up? And how many of you thought of that? But it's a matter of functionality. Like I said, when you start to, as a baby, your cells and all that start to grow. Your functions get more and more. Cannot walk, you can walk. Cannot eat, you can eat solid food. Okay? But at a certain point of your adult life, you'll start to deteriorate. And then when you drop below this line, okay, this is a part where you need help, rehabilitation, you need people to take care of you. And it is a measure of this, whether you're on this line or on this line. Make your choice. And what is this? This is about aging and functionality. So if I look at this, it's about speed. Aging is about speed. And it's something that you don't want speed. If you ever drive a car called aging, please drive the most low-pop car you can have. Don't drive a Ferrari. Why? Because when you have a Ferrari that ages, that goes very fast, your aging will be this. And this is what I call premature aging. You become old when you are still young. How many of you have friends, 30-something years old, already started taking cholesterol medicine, high blood pressure medicine, diabetes, stroke at a young age? So that's premature aging. Now, a lot of people tell me anti-aging is about beauty. I'm sure when I introduced Celergen to Ivy for her mom who had stroke, I'm not going to make her mom more beautiful. I want to make her mom live a better quality of life. So anti-aging is about slowing down your aging so that you can be above that line as you reach an older age. No problem? So that I can still walk to the toilet every day until the day I die. Correct, right? So this is about speed. So if you ever take a car called aging, take the slowest car possible. Okay. There are things that you can control, your lifestyle, your diet, and then there's substance abuse. And part of substance abuse is running to the doctors and getting medicine all the time. Okay, so there are things that you can control, but then there are things that, like say, you can't. Okay, like the sun, the pollution. Yeah, you can do your little part by not driving a car, don't pollute the atmosphere and all that. But generally, they are there, you have to live. And then a lot of us think that radiation is from Fukushima. Fukushima, the earthquake, then you are all radiating yourself. All of you, handphone, come take out handphone. See? But even if I say I don't use handphone, okay, got Wi-Fi, right? No Wi-Fi cannot. Then you say no Wi-Fi, never mind, but then you are walking on the street. How many of you live in tall buildings, flats? Have you ever looked at the roof of the building? There are some things sticking out. Those are your handphone base stations. Okay, so if there are things that you can't control, then what do? A lot of times people say, oh, no, it's okay, we eat healthy, we live healthy. But if you want to lift a small piece of stone, I can just lift it up, right? Because the resistance is only there, right? But if I have a big piece of stone, I need help, right? I need help by using a crane or something to lift it up, right? But your body, when you evolve, you can walk, you can sit, you can sleep, you can eat, whatever, it's okay. But when you have so many exogenous outside factor affecting you, what do? Do you think your body needs help? How do you help? There are people who will tell me, I don't believe in supplement. But using a machine is supplement. Using something to help you do or go against something that's even bigger than your capability is called supplement. So your body could need supplement. Agree? So what does all this cost? All this costs one thing. This is the part where I tell you the cellular and molecular damage that happened to you. Okay, the cellular and molecular damage is caused by this thing called free radical. Okay, what's free radical? Free radical is, well, radical is a bad thing, right? Like terrorists. Free radicals are these electrons that goes out to your body and then grab other electrons. Okay? Basically, what free radical does, if you talk about oxidation, oxidative stress, it means your body is rusting from inside. You cannot see your liver, cannot see your kidney, cannot see your lungs and all that. But when these kind of things happen, you are rusting from inside. And therefore, your function starts to fail. Agree? But then it's not so fast. So when the free radical goes through your cell membrane, okay, it affects your little factory, right? I told you about factory, right? You go inside there, your production line gets damaged, so cannot produce whatever. The worst thing is if it goes into your nucleus, your control center, then instead of producing rubber duckies, it produces monster duckies because the DNA got changed. Because the control center, the diagram changed. So this thing could actually become cancer cells. So when the nucleus is affected, the control center is affected, that's where cancer happens. This is called mutation of the cell. So oxidative stress causes this thing called inflammation. It's responsible for 90 over kind of diseases. It affects every part of your body. Okay, but what oxidative stress causes is called inflammation. And don't get me wrong, inflammation has been called a silent killer, but not all inflammation is bad. There's a good and bad inflammation. The good inflammation is for acute things, like when your hand is cut, inflammation happens because they send the defenses there, they send the repair cells there, then you, after your cut, you find that it's swollen, right? But after the swelling is over, the skin returns to normal. Sometimes when you have a fever and the person returns back to health, there's also a case of inflammation. One cycle of inflammation is okay. But the problem with chronic inflammation is this: you are slowly, no feel. Just like one cell start as a cancer. Later I'll talk about cancer, but one cell becomes bad, no problem. Maybe even 1 million cells become bad, no problem. But when you have a few billion cells become bad, some function has to fail in your body, but you don't know. So a lot of times we say we are healthy. I always say that I work with doctors because why? Maybe the 20 to 30% on one end of unhealthy, sick people already know they are sick. Doctors will see them. Doctors will take care of them. There are 70% of us here who believe we are healthy. How many of you believe I'm healthy? But the problem with you being healthy is, do you know you're healthy? Are you doing anything about it? The Chinese have a word called 亚健康. Okay, the rest of us just want to perceive we are healthy. So if you don't do anything about it, I've given you the external factor that could affect you. I've given you the internal factor that you could do something for yourself. But of course, if you don't do anything, then we will leave it to chance. For inflammation, they can see like, wow, joints start to pain, start to ache, you know, or whatever. We know we're having inflammation. We went and check what's wrong. It could be arthritis, it could be gout, it could be whatever. Pain that comes up, we can see. But what about those that you cannot see? This one here is a potential breast cancer patient using thermography, or a person with a lot of things at the back. Actually, this person in the back, you can see that there's a lot of all these white spots are actually inflammation that's happening. We don't know what's happening. So a lot of our tissues will have all these indications. It's whether we know it or not. Or if there are so many different spots there, how are you going to treat every single one of them? Okay, so like I say, chronic diseases, it's hard to say. It's difficult to classify them as a disease because chronic means over a period of time. Slowly. You hope that the bad part doesn't happen until we say bye-bye. But in most cases now, everything is premature, it's shortened. And a lot of these chronic diseases are showing themselves a lot earlier in life. Okay. So let's talk about 3 common chronic diseases: diabetes, talk about cancer, we talk about heart diseases. These are statistics from Singapore. Okay. So diabetes, Singapore has the second highest proportion of population with diabetes. Yeah, here. Okay, cancer. 1 out of 3 people die of cancer. In fact, I don't know whether this is getting even higher or not. And heart diseases, every day 16 people die from cardiovascular disease. Okay, I'll talk about these 3 diseases, not to go too deep into them, but there are a lot of people who think that these things must be medicated. But I tell you that if you do prevention, it could be prevented. Now, type 1, type 2 diabetes. May I know how many in the audience has type 1 or type 2 diabetes? Type 1 people sometimes surrender themselves and say, oh, I have type 1 diabetes. But if you look at it here, okay, type 1, you are predisposed, but if you inherited the genes, but they are subjected to environmental triggers. If you know you are predisposed and you take the proper precautions, maybe we can drag this a lot further. I'm not saying you can totally avoid it, but is there a chance you can drag it further? Because up to this stage, there's still a preventive possibility. And if you look at it, damage to cells that make insulin, cells again. But here, by the time it becomes a full-blown diabetes, you need intervention. A lot of us will wait till here, oh, I have diabetes, type 1 diabetes. Agree? Type 2, again, you live a normal life, blah, 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 beta cell. These beta cells are on your pancreas. The beta cells produces insulin. A few things can happen, yeah? The beta cells may not totally fail. The beta cells could actually be dormant. We have seen some cases of that, or the beta cells could actually be damaged due to whatever reason. So again, this becomes a type 2 diabetes. Now, diabetes is a worthwhile investment to really prevent that. If you think you are predisposed, or the problem with diabetes, it doesn't kill you, right? It tortures you because a lot of things will happen. A host of other diseases, including dental disease, will happen, right? So if you prevent diabetes, you are actually on the road to preventing a lot of other diseases happening to you later part in life. Okay. Now let's talk about cancer. Oxidation and cancer. I talk about cancer happens when certain cells are mutated. When you damage the DNA, the control center produce wrong things, then it turns on certain genes, okay, like oncogenes and, EMYC genes and all that. So when that happens, cancer happens. Lung cancer could start from where? Lung cancer could start from your toe, because a cell there was, affected by a free radical, changed the nucleus, and then a little tumor grow on your toe, which you are not aware of. And then when it metastasizes, means the blood vessels come, and then the cells break up, then the cells start to... So a lot of times when someone gets detected with cancer, the first question is, has it spread? Right? That's the angiogenesis, right? Has it spread? So it's spread. But where it starts from could be from toe, could be from somewhere. Then it will go to some place and find a nice, cozy place, maybe called a lung. Then it goes there, and then it starts to grow. So from one cell to becoming a tumor that's 1 cubic cm is about that size. This small tumor could be about between 10 to 30 years. But if these cells are moving around in your body, and if your immune system is strong, there could be a chance your immune system could detect these cells and kill them. So your immune system is very important. One of the most important things in your body is your immune system. And here, cancer progression can be age 20 to 50. I think this is what happened to my friend. I received a phone call. He was diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. And then I found out that pancreatic cancer actually takes about 20 years from forming to becoming a problem to stage 4. So then he died at the age of about 49. So which means if he had started doing prevention at about 30 years old, maybe just about right. And that's probably about the right age where people start to have to think about keeping themselves healthy. Okay, let's talk about things like cardiovascular issues. Cardiovascular issues happens when your blood vessels start to get clogged. So that's one thing, your blood vessels get clogged. But your blood vessel, the cells, sometimes get hardened. Sometimes high blood pressure is because your cells lost its suppleness, which means like if you take a rubber hose, and the rubber hose after a while in the sun is hardened, when you suddenly turn on the tap, the hose will burst. This is what could happen to someone with the blood vessels clogging and also hardening. So these things are atherosclerosis. So you don't know where that's going to happen, big vessel, small vessel, and could give a lot of things. It develops a lot of things, because if something happens to the toes, then your legs start to have issues, then the blood vessels, the blood is not going there. It could get gangrene, could have funny growth. People can go blind because the blood vessel in the eyes burst or things like that. So kidney failure is one of the other things that could happen. So high blood pressure, okay, could lead to kidney failure. So there's a lot of connection into the whole system in our body, okay, complications. So in most cases, what I've talked about is free radical, leading to oxidative stress, leading to chronic inflammation. Chronic inflammation is the problem. Because when you cough 2 times in the morning, you go to the doctor say you're crazy, ask you to go home. But if you don't start treating why you're having that 2 coughs in the morning, it could lead to many, many coughs. And then most of the time, when it comes to that stage, when it manifests as a disease, you'll be asking for a cure. Which will be harsh drugs. When someone is already diagnosed with cancer, it is chemotherapy, which is very harsh, right? When someone gets diagnosed with diabetes, they go on a control program with the diabetic drugs, then they go to insulin, and in the worst case, they go for dialysis. Those are very harsh. Okay, how many of you are on supplements for some issues that you have? That is called self-medication because you're trying to avoid the harsh medication that the doctors may tell you. And then, of course, there's a cost. Okay? So, after all this explanation that I've given and I told you about ourselves, there's actually one disease only. Agree? The disease is called cellular malfunction. Right? Every single part of your body, even when you go bald, is also cellular malfunction of your hair follicle. So if there's only one disease, then you cannot, there are so many trillions of cells in you, you can't possibly treat every single cell. Okay? Although they say cells are the new cure, yes, are the new cure because people are trying to do bespoke treatment. They find out what cells are not good, they try to treat the particular cell. But that is still way in the future. This book only came out in 2018. Okay, but they know, they recognize. But cellular therapy has been around for a long time. Is it new? No, actually it's been like 1960 something. People started using cell therapy, which means they use something, a living cell, well, in place of medication as a therapy to treat the person. Now, blood transfusion is cell therapy. Skin graft, where you get burned and they cut a piece of skin from here and then they put it there, make it, that is cell therapy. They're using a live bioactive treatment on something that replaces what is there, okay? And all these 3 diseases, I told you, many of it comes to, these diseases don't happen overnight. It happens over a long time. When things happen over a long time, it means you can prevent it. So when something happens over a long period of time, you have the time to do prevention. Agree? If it happens on the spot, like car crash, there's nothing you can do. But if something happens over a long time, but what do most of us do? I don't need it yet. I'm still healthy. Okay, so mention the difference is this. Cure is when you get that illness. Okay, the doctors come in, they must treat the symptom. But the doctors cannot go in to treat on the long term, on the fundamental, go in right to the roots of the root cause. Why? Because that takes a very long time. That needs your own discipline to do. Doctor control is tell you to, watch your diet, go and exercise. But if you don't do that, the doctor cannot do that. The doctor can only give you insulin to control. But care is done by yourself. It has to be your own decision. It has to be your own choice. Don't wait for the doctors to have to tell you to do something to keep yourself from getting sick. Okay, so preventive care can be your lifestyle, can be your, nutrition, whatever, but that has to be done on your own. And medicine is used for specific type. That's why people ask about what is a pathway. Now, the doctors give you a drug that has been tested over a long period of time with many, many people to find a certain pathway to say that this drug, maybe 85 to 90% works for this group of people with this problem. It's a very directed one-to-one. Okay? So if it doesn't work for the 10 or 15%, it's okay because by right, the doctors they are not God. They cannot treat every single person. They treat as many as they can, but it will be symptomatic. So remove the immediate threats to your life. Supplements should work on a non-specific basis. Because if you've got to find one supplement for every disease, every single part of your body, I don't know, I think every day take 1 bottle like that. Okay, I don't know whether enough or not. Okay, it has to be on the long term. Don't wait until you have the problem, then want to take a supplement. How many of you tend to have this? I got a problem, then I take supplement. So everyone is always in a rush to get themselves better. Like everybody wants to get well in a hurry. Not going to happen. You got to give your body time. I already told you it's your cells. Okay, you may actually want to have 1 or 2 years. And that's why I say chronic sufferer cannot expect to evolve full health in less than 2 years. After 2 years, go on the mode, slow down the aging. It's not going to be a pill that makes you live forever. But remember, it's not about stopping that slope coming down. It is about maintaining that slope, keeping it before you become disabled. So what we have here is Celergen. It's the world's first Swiss orally taken cellular therapy that uses marine derivatives.